we are now recording. I like to start on time. You know what that does to me? When I'm someplace on time and everybody waits until everybody that's late comes in, it's not that it's a bad thing. And at the same time, I want to honor all of those who were here on time. So I hope you can appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. I don't mean to insult anybody. That's just where I'm at. So welcome to the webinar. So happy to be here. Darcy, you can go ahead and share your screen now if you like to. I've got a quick intro and I think everybody can hear us. There's not a lot of housekeeping that needs to be done at this point. I'm just excited to introduce Darcy. For those of you who don't know me, real quick, I'm Julie Hoffman. I'm one of the founders of the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group. Maybe you're here from a Facebook post or something. Anyway, I've been doing real estate a long time. Darcy reached out to me through Quentin D'Souza. Actually, Quentin told me about Darcy and blah, blah, blah. Quentin's a heavy hitter out in Ontario. I'm really glad I met Darcy. He is a good man. He is just one of those types of people that I want to work with. He wants to help people. He wants people to succeed. He considers success, like me, is if somebody has learned, you know, even just one thing by attending something like this. So regardless of whether you decide to take advantage of a very generous offer that he happens to have at the end of this event, please know that his and my first and foremost priority is that you leave here knowing a little bit more, or better yet, a lot more than you did walking in. Also, since Darcy has vast experience in many areas of real estate investment, he has a unique ability to identify opportunities where others may not. And that is the benefit of being around for a long time, stepping on landmines, learning lessons, having big success and also big challenges, struggling, you know, that kind of thing. When we talked together about this program that he's put together, I knew that he was really on to something. And I feel really privileged to be able to host him tonight. So please join me in welcoming your teacher in land development, Mr. Darcy Marler. Thanks, Darcy.
Thank you very much, Julia. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate that. Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us today. I think it's going to be a really cool discussion here about land development and what we can all learn from it. I really like land development, and I think it's going to be kind of the next big thing. So that's kind of the theme for the show here. So real quick, who am I? My name is Darcy Marler. I've been a real estate investor for 20-some plus years. I'm out of Calgary. I've done every single investment strategy, residential-wise, flips, short and long-term rental, condo conversions, change the use of buildings. Personally owned 90 buildings, turned 40 units, had close to 1,000 tenants, and then I've also done a bunch of land development, as well as some new construction. I'm the author of 4 books and the creator of an online course. So let's not spend too much time on me. Let's get to the meat of it. So what do I hope to get across today? Land development can be so much more than you think. I think a lot of us have the bad, kind of a wrong idea about land development. So I hope to set you straight on that. We're going to focus on what I call micro strategies within land development that I think the average investor can really take advantage of. And that there's one of these micro strategies for every size of investor and every size of budget. So I see basically anybody who's had at least a little bit of experience in flips or rentals can definitely do this. I'd like to start to allow you to see properties as more than rentals and flips, that you can look at an old building and see it in a different light. I believe land development and new construction will be the next big things in real estate. And I want land development to be transformational for you, that you can do this. So I hope to get all that across tonight. And as Julie said, to really educate you and maybe just open your eyes that, yeah, it is possible. So what are these micro strategies of which I speak? So typically, I think most of us think of land development as, you know, something for the big boys, just these big corporations on the outskirts of town. They buy several hundred acres of land, and over the next 10 years, they're going to phase in 1,000 lots. That's land development for sure. That's raw land development. Now you can do that on a smaller scale, maybe 5-10 acres of land, subdivided into smaller parcels, put in internal services, a road, and you sell the lots. That can get a little expensive, so probably scaled down to most of where we're at. You can do old house on large lot. where you take an older house, knock down the house, maybe subdivide that into a couple of lots, make sure each lot is serviced and sell those. You can buy a building on a large lot and sever the excess land. So what's cool about that is you take the profits from that sale and you can do 3 more things with it. What do you do with the building that's still there? Well, you can sell it and just walk away from the whole project with a profit. You can maybe develop that, turn that building and develop that land as well. Or you can maybe take the profits from the sale of the excess land, apply that to the original building, pay down the mortgage of that, and now you've got a really nice cash flowing property. So for those of you who might be having trouble finding cash flowing rentals, that might be a way to kind of merge the land development and rental. I like land assembly. You take 2 or more lots together, get those ready for a builder, and that builder can maybe build an apartment building or side-by-side townhouses or something. You can add on to existing development. Probably better just to show you in pictures what I mean by that. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Upzoning, you can change the zoning and density, usage or bylaws of a piece of property and then sell that for a profit. Or you can do paperwork only, where you complete the paperwork, get the permits ready, and get the lot, what we call shovel ready for a builder. So the key is, what I'd like you to do as we kind of go through the rest of today, I'd like you to maybe focus on 1 or 2 of those micro strategies and maybe, twist your thinking a little bit and say, I can do that. I think that might be a micro strategy that I like. The other thing I'd like to get across is that you don't always have to do the on-site work. You can just move the needle. So typically with a flip or a condo conversion, something like that, you've got to finish the project before it's worth anything. You can't sell a half-finished flip and expect to kind of get full dollars for it. What's unique about land development is you can just change the zoning of the density, sell it to the next person. You can tear down the house and sell it to the next person. You can complete the paperwork, get permits, sell it to the next permit. So you can just kind of move the needle. You can get on and off the escalator, as I like to say. So yeah, there's different micro strategies for every level of budget. Yeah, we can do. So let's look at a few examples from my own investing history, just to kind of give you an example of what's possible. So this was an example of a pure raw land development place. So I put two lots together, a 4-acre site and a 3¼ acre site together to make 7¼ I changed the zoning and the density, and then I subdivided into 36 lots. So changing the zoning and the density, what does that mean? Well, before the zoning was single family homes, and I changed it to duplexes. The density was 1 to 2 units per acre, and I changed it to 3 to 5. So what does that mean? So if you take the original 2 units per acre, multiply it by 7¼ you get 14.5, you round down to 14. So before, as a developer, I could have created 14 lots, sold that to a builder, and they could have built 14 homes, single family homes. After the change, 5 was the maximum density. You multiply that by 7¼ you get 36 and a bit, round down to 36. Now I can create, as a developer, I can create 36 lots instead of 14, sell it to a builder who can then sell or create or build 36 duplexes. But you can see that greatly increases what the builder can do, and as a result can greatly increase the value of the property. And in fact, even before I'd done anything on site, I was able to I got an offer where I could have sold it and made $400,000 profit just by literally just doing the paperwork. So I did decide to actually go ahead and do the land development part. And in fact, I actually built the homes as well after, as you can kind of see in the bottom right. So upper left-hand corner is a picture. The first day we actually got permits. Now we're able to actually do work on site. That's pretty cool. We got these life-size Tonka toys, which makes, 5-year-old Darcy thought that was a pretty cool day. Bottom left-hand corner, we're actually digging the big trenches to put what they call the deep or the wet services in. That's water, sanitary sewer, and storm. Upper right was a pretty cool day as well. You've been working on this project for a long time, and we already have the curb and gutter and the sidewalks in, the lights and the fire hydrants and all that. Today we actually got to put in the actual internal road, which is a very, very satisfying day after all you've been through for that. And then you can see the bottom with the actual internal road. There was a park at the very bottom of that picture. You can see I had to do the park. That's a city park, and there's a few other things. So that's kind of the fitness project. So that's what I like about land development too, is you kind of got a real beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Where you can actually stand back when it's all done, pride, and say, yeah, I did that. This whole thing exists on the planet because of me. So what strategies did we use? Again, raw land development. We did land assembly. Remember, I put the 2 lots together, and we did upzoning. So just to give you kind of a ballpark where we're at, again, I did actually build the houses, but if I just had done the land development and sold the lots were selling at the time about 150,000 each. I bought the land for 2.4 million. All the costs to get it developed, the paperwork, permits, and the actual work on site was about 2 million. So there's about $1 million profit there. And again, I had the opportunity to make $400,000 profit from the upside. So that's maybe a little rich for my blood. Darce, what else you got for me? So this is actually the very first one I did. Now this is very, very doable for basically everyone on the call, I think. So I owned, actually again, obviously before and after. So I owned the house, the kind of 1950s bungalow hidden behind the trees there. I was going to flip it. The person next to me passed away. So I ended up buying the house. And again, I was just going to flip them both. When I decided, you know what, I want to try this land development, new construction thing. So I actually moved off both houses. I subdivided the 2 lots into 4. 2 of the lots already were serviced, obviously, because the 2 old houses were there. So I just had to put the services to the 2 new lots. Now, again, I could have sold the 4 lots serviced, and that would have been a pure land development play. As you may have guessed already, I like to actually see the actual build as well. So I don't typically generally stop at the land development part. So I ended up going and I built the 2 single family homes on the outside with the duplex in the middle. So that was a nice little project. The MicroStrategy is here. This is an example of old house on large lot. So I had 2. I'd moved them off and created 4 lots. You can just do that with 1. So 1 house, you move them off, split it into 2, create the 2 lots serviceable. So this is old house on large lot. Again, land assembly. And now to get a cost example of that. Now, typically when you're in an urban environment, the city mains, the water, the natural gas is going to be kind of right in the street in front. Not always, but most of the time. You have to dig a trench, or your qualified team has to build a trench to actually attach to the city main and put the new lines to your lot. That typically, depending on where you are, is call it $15,000 to $30,000. You throw some engineering on that. So the cost per lot is probably $20,000 to $50,000 depending on where you live. So that is pretty comparable to what you'd cost or to fix up or do a rental or a flip, right? So I always say if you can afford to buy the house as a rental or a flip, you can afford to buy it for this particular MicroStrategy with this land development. Severing excess land. So here's a 4-plex that I bought, and actually there was an extra piece of land next to it that was part of the deal. So that's where the trees were. Actually turned out to be 50 feet of frontage, or frontage is what we call the amount that's the length of the street. So I actually severed that. I subdivided that, created an extra lot. I then sold that. And remember I said there was 3 options that you can do at that point. I actually used the profits from the sale of the excess land to pay down the mortgage. So it was a typical 80% loan to value before, and it got down to 70% loan to value. So the 4-plex cash flowed well before, but it cash flowed really nicely after. So again, maybe that's a way to merge land development with rentals if you're having trouble finding cash flow. So here's another one, add on to an existing development. So here's another example of something we can do. So it's a little bit faded, but in the upper left, you can kind of see 11 larger lots. This is just outside Calgary. So basically it's kind of a rural area, kind of not. So somebody in the past had done this development with 11, 3 to 5 acre lots. And the group I was involved with bought the land kind of in the darker felt there. Lots 1, 2, 3, 4. So they bought 13.5 acres, added on to the existing lot. So basically kind of tag team, we didn't have any direct connection to the developer that did the original developer, but saw an opportunity to kind of add on. What's great about this is you can kind of save money by a lot of the dirty work of the existing road already exists. You're just going to have to add on to it. So it's a kind of a cheaper way to maybe. So what MicroStrategy, again, adding on to an existing unit, we paid $10,000 an acre for 13.5 acres. The average sale of the lots after were between 3.25 and 350,000. Legal development costs. We had to pay $100,000 to gain access to the other property. So that's something you'll probably have to do with this type of development, this MicroStrategy. See, there you can see the total costs. And so it took about 3 years. The county wasn't necessarily that helpful, but probably took longer than it should have. But there was, nice little profit. Paperwork only. So remember, I said you don't always have to do work on site. So a friend of mine, just last year actually in Calgary, they were going to buy a house and then knock it down and build a really nice new house. So typically, that kind of strategy only works in kind of an upper class, kind of a richer neighborhood where you've got a really nice house after. Typically, not always, but typically, the goal of land development is when you're subdividing, you want to have as many new lots as possible so that the cost per lot is as low as possible. So he was going to do the other one, to kind of knock down old house and build new. You can see what he paid there. They were going to estimated profits about $350,000. So they're working with their architect, the surveyor. They knocked down the old house. They were servicing, and then out of the blue, somebody came up to them. A realtor came up to them and said, I got a young couple here that wants to buy your lot because they don't want to wait several months to go through, permitting and all that. You've already done all that. You've moved the process ahead. So they were actually offered $850,000, which gave them $135,000 profit in about 2.5 months. And that's, not untypical. I've got a Facebook group, and somebody in that Facebook group posted a couple of months ago that they made about $300,000 profit in 6 months. Just changing the zoning or density, or just kind of doing the paperwork. So these are kind of some of the things that are available there as well. Again, paperwork only. What's also different is normally you need a planner or a civil engineer when you're doing land development. Here they did. They just had kind of a surveyor and the architect. So the team was smaller as well. So why do land development? Well, as I said before, I really do think that land development and new construction are going to be the next big things. There's just so many things pointing to it. And we'll get into that here. So I'm talking to people all over the country and all over North America, actually, and people are having trouble. Investors are having trouble finding properties to flip or rent. Because in a lot of places, the cost to buy the properties is not a reach, or the cost of rental is rising way faster than the rent, and there's rent control. So people are having trouble finding properties to flip rent. There's massive immigration coming all over North America, but there's already a housing crisis. We saw this as a big issue in the last federal election, right? So there's all these kind of pressure coming down to the municipal governments to increase the supply, which I really see over the next few years. There's going to be, increased demand. There's already huge demand, but all three levels of government are going to be working to kind of increase density and increase the amount of inventory that's out there of housing, and also to speed up the application process time. So I think that's going to be really, really big over the next 5 years. In general, we need to stop urban sprawl, especially, North America. We kind of just keep going out and out. That needs to stop. We need to kind of move back in, because this is getting too expensive for governments and taxpayers to always just kind of going out and building new roads and building new infrastructure, new schools. The younger demographic and even older people like me, I'm 55, when I eventually sell my house in a couple of years and move, I'm not going to move into a 1930s house. And I've got 3 kids that are, in their early 20s. They're not moving into a 1930s house either, right? So everybody likes new now. So you're going to see that push, this move to quality and move to new. So I really do believe over the next 5 years, with all this all this demand and not enough supply, you're going to see more and more of those older homes torn down. So the big boys are going to continue to build on the outskirts of town. I think this is a real opportunity for investors, smaller and mid-sized investors, to kind of get in and supply that need as well. When you have a problem, when you have a need, if you can fill that need, there's typically profit there. Another thing, it's getting harder and harder to insure some of these older homes as investments too. If you live in a 1930s house, you can get insured. It's getting harder and harder to insure them as investment properties. So I think that's going to really change, and I really do think this is going to be one of the next big things over the next 5 years. So I'd like to start maybe tweaking your brain a little bit to start looking at some of these older properties differently. So let's look at something like this. So typically, as landlords or flippers, maybe you approach this and say, oh, this is too old for me. I'm not even going to look at it. Maybe competition is so bad in your area that, I don't want to flip these, but I can't find anything else. So I'm going to flip these or reno these. I say, let's tweak the brain a little bit and say, let's tear these down. Like, they're not great. Like I renovated and flipped a ton of buildings in my day. They got next to no insulation in the walls. They got aluminum wiring. They got old pipe that's rusted through, probably single pane glass, so they're just not nice at all, right? And you can see the space between the buildings. That's a real waste of space, right? So we're in this era where we've got this housing crisis and we need more inventory. And here's, like an 800 square foot 2-room house taking up 50 foot of frontage, right? So it's a real it's not very efficient. So what if we kind of tweak our brains a bit, and as soon as you see something like that, instead of thinking of as a potential rent or a flip, say, what if, what's that MicroStrategy of, take old house, tear it down, and do something new with it? So what if you take these and build something like that? Or take something like this, turn it into that, side-by-side townhouses, or maybe even a little 6 or an 8-plex, right? So just again, there's all kinds of possibilities. This is how we as smaller investors, I truly believe, can really to do our bit to help with the housing crisis and find places for the younger crowd and new immigrants to live. So again, you're looking for something like the top row. Anything, my pitch tonight is that anything that's kind of older than 1960s, with the obvious exception of things that are architecturally or historical value, need to be torn down. So, we all seen like a bazillion of these houses. There's no redeeming architectural or historical value there. So I say anything that's in the top row, we can get rid of and replace with something nicer. And these are available only, you guys know, driving around any city in North America, you're going to find a ton of these old ones. Very quick search here in Vernon, where you guys are at, pulled up this old thing that, look at the fence, like it's, don't run it. Just don't flip that. So, and proof again that the various levels of governments are getting involved in this too. So it really is a local problem. Like it's a supply issue, right? So local governments need to work quicker to approve and increase that, but they're getting pressure from provincial and federal governments. Again, the other thing Ottawa is doing is spending money. So they're helping builders and developers with actual loans. That's good. CMHC, Canada Mortgage Housing Incorporation, has announced a new program where if you're going to build a new multifamily apartment building, you can get a loan for 95% loan to cost, which is incredible, right? But the real kicker is once you've done the build, and there's some, a few criteria you got to meet for that. But once you've done the build, you can port it to a 50-year amortized mortgage. The idea behind that is because it's 50 years, the monthly payments are going to be so low. And now you're going to be able to potentially lower your rent, so that's a way that they see that the lower income people can have nicer new housing. So that's a program that the federal government has. Here's something Western Investor, again, golden age for building new rental apartments based on that same AC loan. And here's something again in BC. So this was in the CTV News Vancouver. Basically, again, I said it's a municipal problem. There's not much the provincial government can do other than pressure the municipal governments to be better, right? So all across the country, provincial governments are trying to make the municipal governments do things faster for cheaper. Here, BC government is simply saying that, what we want to do is get to a place where municipalities could say where the housing should go, what it should look like, but not whether or not it goes ahead. So they're looking at even potentially taking the control of the application process away. So you don't have the NIMBY crowd having any kind of pressure and saying, not in my backyard. So yeah, for all these reasons, I really do honestly believe that this is a really, really good opportunity for investors going forward. So again, why do land development? Potentially very profitable, not always, but as you saw from some of the projects that I did, one project could potentially equal the profit of several flips. It is a realistic alternative to fix and flips, conversions of BRRRR. There's some MicroStrategies that you can do that. You've got the ability to increase the value of the original asset. Now, typically as renters or landlords and flippers, we think of the asset as the building. Here again, tweak your mind. The asset's the land. So how do we improve the asset of land? Again, you don't always have to move the needle. You can do specific things to increase the value. Builders don't want to deal with long wait times to develop lots, so there's profit there. So I always say, if you're having trouble playing in the rental BRRRR or flip sandbox, maybe you could do better in the land development and do construction sandbox. Who's it for? Well, I found in my experience that it's for real estate investors who have some experience, who are having trouble finding flips or cash flowing rentals to work with. Maybe you don't like flips or rentals. Like I said, I had close to 1,000 rent tenants in my life, and I can't actually say that I enjoyed the rental game too much. Maybe you're looking for an alternative short-term cash strategy. You're looking for something a little more advanced. Maybe you did have success in flips or rentals, and now you're looking for something a little more challenging in your life, and land development and construction. Maybe you agree with me that this is going to be the next big thing, and you want to get ahead of that. Maybe you're an investor, have excess land. Like maybe you have some apartment buildings with some excess land and you're saying, hey, I didn't think that maybe I could sever that and make a profit off that. Or your people already in industry, realtors, tradespeople, civil engineers. Some common fears in land development: takes too long, it's too hard, costs too much, construction, you need a construction experience to do it, and it's only for the big companies. So let's maybe look at some of that. So I kind of like to simplify things, and what I always say is out with the old, in with the new. So what does that mean? Well, let's say you approach one of those kind of 1930s houses we saw a few slides back. Out with the old would mean, what's there now that I don't need? Obviously the house, probably a concrete basement, maybe a garage in the back, a driveway, sidewalks, that kind of thing. Maybe a fence, maybe some trees. So what's not there, or what's there now that I don't want with the new vision? In with the new is, okay, once you kind of get it back to neutral, what do I have to do to get it ready for a builder? So that's my kind of, that's how I define land development, is getting land ready for a builder. New construction is taking a service lot and actually building something. So out with the old, in with the new is a good way for your brain to kind of psychologically make it easier for yourself. And then the other thing that does is it simplifies the process easily into a to-do list. So now it's just a series of checklists. You know, this is what I have to do to get the work done. You can break larger goals into smaller ones that way. It's really good. Start small, work on smaller project first, then grow. We're looking for older houses that the flippers and landlords don't want. So less competition makes it easier. Again, you don't have to do the whole development. You can just do a piece of it. And your team, which is made up of a planner or civil engineer, cost consultant, mortgage broker, realtor, attorney, and lawyer. Your team, so basically civil engineers, are going to do most of the work. The interface back and forth with the city. So is it easy? Is land development easy? I would say no, but it's not hard either. I find it to be more bureaucratic, more kind of administrative, more basically just a big checklist. So it takes too long. The real thing I can say about land development, if you're finding land development, or if you've heard horror stories, it's basically the municipality. Like it's basically the government, it's where you are. Because I can tell you across this whole country, you can have municipalities where it takes a month or two to get a permit. Other places it's 4 to 6 months or 8 to 12 months. You know, places like Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto, it takes 1.5 to 2 years. So really the big key is pick the right municipality and the right neighborhood. That's about the best advice I can give. Even on Vancouver Island, for example, Victoria is awful. It's about 1.5 to 2 years. An hour down the road in Langford, it takes about 2 months. Other places like Parksville and Qualicum are nice. Nanaimo is about 8 to 10 months. So you can just see, you know, Silk is about 1.5 years. So, you know, just going across the street literally could make a difference. So that's kind of the biggest tip I can give you. Pick your micro strategy and the type of projects you're going to do. Do it over and over again and get good at it. That'll decrease the time it takes. And the other tip I can give you is find parcels that are already zoned how you want. If you want to develop a parcel of land that's eventually going to be an apartment building, for example, try to find land that's already zoned that way. So every time you're doing this, you don't have to apply to change zoning or density. Anything you can do to get in and out quickly is really important. And again, you just want to move the needle. Cost too much. Well, I hope I've shown you some micro strategies that can be done less expensively than what you might think. And again, you just want to move the project to the next step. Again, as I said before, if you can afford to buy that old house as a rental or flip, you can afford to buy it for land development. You need construction experience. I didn't when I started. I showed you my first one. Basically, I'd done about a bunch of flips before that, and then I got into this. So again, start small, build up to larger projects. And again, let your team do the work. Let the professionals, your cost consultants, your civil engineers and planners do the design and costing, the on-site work, and dealing with the municipality. Financing is a little bit different with land development projects or new construction. So typically you want to get a mortgage broker that really knows what's going on. There is less equity partners that kind of deal in this world and less lenders that deal with it. So you do want kind of somebody that knows the players kind of thing. You're typically going to need about 25 or 30% of the costs of the entire project in. After that, you can get construction financing. Your money's going to go in first before the construction financing kicks in. And you're going to be self-funding all the soft costs, basically everything till permit approval. Because typically the construction financing doesn't kick in until you've got it actually approved. Steps required. So again, I like to simplify things. So I basically say from dream to design to reality. So there's an initial education phase. So again, you want to figure out what municipality, what communities you want to deal with, what do those areas need? Just because you think it needs more single family homes, maybe it doesn't. So, kind of a needs analysis is really important. Then you get into what I call the viability stage. So now you're probably going to find a piece of land. You're going to do some very high back of napkin kind of revenue and cost estimates, some initial talks with the city, those kind of things. You'll actually find a piece of parcel land that looks promising. So now to go to the next stage, you obviously don't want to start spending some money on blueprints and stuff or site plans without actually controlling the land at least. So there's a land acquisition phase. You're starting to, it's a little early, but you're starting to talk with mortgage brokers about financing. Design phase is kind of a two-part system. One is you don't want to spend too much money up front. Eventually, you're going to have full construction drawings and all that, but you don't want to spend that too early. So basically, you're hiring a civil engineer to do a site plan and maybe some initial costing. You're getting a little more detailed revenue and a little detailed costs. Now you've got something on paper to show the city and the community and potential partners in that. Eventually, everything looks good. The money, the profit potential looks good, and everything. Everybody's basically on board. So now your team can go hard on actually creating the actual application process, doing all the drawings, whatever. And they'll again do the back and forth with the city. Hopefully, you get approval. Once you've got your approval, now you can go hard on the actual on-site work. If you're doing that, you might not even have to do the on-site work, marketing. And so that kind of takes us back to the beginning. So what's next for you in land development? So are you an investor that's finding it hard to find flips and cash flow rent? Are you an investor who maybe doesn't like flips or rentals, or you're looking for something a little more advanced? Maybe you already have land that you want to develop and you're interested in that. Maybe you're already in the industry, as I said, realtor, engineer, planner. You agree with me that this is the next big thing, and you can see a way forward using MicroStrategy, one of the MicroStrategies in land development, to kind of get you to the next level of your stage. And you just need some education to fully transform. The problem is there's really no books or courses or podcasts out there. There's really not a lot. I would say like 95% of real estate education is flips and rentals, flips and rentals. So there's really nothing out there until now. So that's where I created residential land development as a profitable investment course. It's an online course. It's the first online course dedicated to the investment of land development and how to profit from it. So if you want to get into land development or you want to take advantage of the coming lot shortage, this course is what you've been looking for, because there truly is nothing else out there. There is some other courses, not a lot, but typically put on by universities, and as a result, they tend to be really technical. This is a course written by an investor for investors. So basically, it's a 10-hour course online, and we've about over half of that is spent finding deals, funding deals, and how to structure your deals. We actually do an interview with a mortgage broker. So, we do those kind of things. We're doing interviews and that kind of thing as well. We're going to show you how to build a team of experienced professionals. We'll show you how to do small, medium, and large projects, as I've done all of those. And we'll show you how to profit from the MicroStrategies of your choice at whatever financial level you're on. You're going to learn the steps required to profit from land development. So if you want to get into land development, but you didn't know the steps, this gives you the confidence to be able to do it yourself, or control or manage the team. We'll talk about rural versus urban development. So a ton of stuff in the course. After the course, you'll have the knowledge and confidence to go out and develop land profitably, even if you've never done anything like this before, and you're going to be empowered and confident to complete your own projects. Two promises for you. First promise, this program will be transformational for you. So no matter where you're starting from and how you envision your life to be, both financially and maybe lifestyle, one of these MicroStrategies in land development can be the bridge for you. I want you to have that aha moment where you realize, yes, I can profit. Promise number two, after course completion, you're going to know more about land development than 95% of all real estate investors. And I know this to be true because I've been going to monthly meetings, weekend conferences for 20 years now. I've never heard anybody talk about land development. So it's a really kind of well-kept secret of those in the industry. So if you are having problems, like I said, in the land development, in the flip or rental world, and you want to change sandboxes, you can be an expert in this. Format of the course, 8 modules, 11.5 hours. Typically videos of me talking over a slide deck or showing things on the internet, interviews, case studies, common questions, white papers. Here's a screenshot. You can see kind of the different modules as we go through on the left. This is actually one of my favorite modules on the video. I actually go online and I show you how to use zoning maps, how to use MLS searches, how to use community redevelopment plans to be able to find the next property that you want to develop. So after you complete the online portion, I'm going to be right there with you. So in addition to the 8 modules, there's a 9-page step-by-step checklist, so you can hit the ground running. We've got a private Facebook group where you can network, ask questions, learn from others. And then every 2 weeks, we've got a Q&A Zoom session with the whole group, and we can ask questions. It's actually turning into, kind of little mini masterminds. It's actually really cool. People come in, 2 weeks ago, Darcy, we were talking about this, so you told me I needed to do this, so now I did. So kind of what do I need next? Everything you need to actually take action is there, because I sincerely want you to succeed. Just a couple of real quick testimonials. So Imelda and Bartek, I love this. So basically, Imelda had done a bunch of investing. She was kind of the one that took care of the rentals in the multifamily. Bartek, the husband, didn't have much to do with it. She started taking the course. He started tuning in, and now basically he's the one that's all excited. So I kind of get it. So the course demystified the process of land development for us to the point where my wife and I have purchased a teardown property, and we plan to build the highest and best use. Without Darcy's course, we've never had the confidence to do that. So I highly, highly recommend the course. So yeah, they bought a house in Kingston, I believe, and they've got paperwork in front of the city now to change that into a 15-unit. So that's exceptional. I'm really excited about that. Here's another testimony from another student. So this is someone that's in the Maritimes, and then basically, he's got plans to buy this property, and either he's got plan A or plan B, and he was putting it forward to the group to see what they thought. But this is the one I love the best. So basically, 6 members of the student group got together, and they made an offer on a 4-plex and a duplex side by side in Calgary. The offer price was $1.6 million. They came together. They made an offer on that. They got it. They talked to the owner of the 4-plex next door, and they made a deal with them. And now they've made an offer, and they're negotiating with another duplex guy on the corner. So the great thing about this is surrounding them is just across from Chinook Mall in Calgary, if you know that. So basically, there's kind of 17-story towers on both sides of them, and these 4 buildings are in the middle. So now the goal is, again, the strategy, the micro strategy of basically tear down and get everything ready. With the zoning and the density change, the amount of lift that they're going to have by changing that land to be able to go from duplexes and 4-plexes to a 17-story concrete tower is immense. So this is an example of kind of what the student group, the network, the Facebook group is getting into. Like, this is amazing. That's I just love it. It's the greatest thing ever. So I'm so proud of the team for doing that. We're going to do Q&A next. If you've got any questions, you can enter them in the chat. Before we do that, I'm sure you all want to know kind of what this costs are. So we'll get into that right now. So basically, it's normally $19.95. I've got students from all over, so it is in US dollars. But right now, special deal for tonight, which is this group, $14.95 US for the first 5 takers. So that basically translates to about 1,900 Canadian. So if you'd like that, there's the link for that is right there. You can go and actually buy now if you're interested. If you are one of those groups or people that have land to develop already, or you wanted to get into this, and you have been having trouble with flips or rentals, this is a great thing. The second link there is if you have questions about the course, there's an actual what they call landing page with the curriculum breakdown and testimony. So this is a really, really good, it's extremely well priced, I believe. With that, I know that Julie wanted to answer something on that. So let's maybe flip back to Julie for a second, and we'll hit the Q&A.
Sure. Thank you so much, Darcy. I'm going to put those links in the chat, and then everybody that's here is also going to get a follow-up email with the recording. And in addition to that, Darcy and I decided that there's really just no such thing as too much information. That said, you all are going to be very busy implementing this training, and still, I really just want to help any way that I can. So that's why when you decide to invest in Darcy's training, you get my full online library included in that. So the Street Smart Buyer course, student Carolyn had a deal within the first session of that online training. The bandit sign course, Trina found a deal within 6 months of using bandit signs and implementing the training from the course. None of her own money, no bank qualify. Havan used the digital bandit sign course, how to find deals online remotely. Havan is in Surrey. He found 3 deals in Edmonton, all low money down, all no bank qualify. And you also get access to the No Fluff wholesaling course taught by Brendan Skilton Douglas, who's in Edmonton and does 2 to 3 deals a month. You also get access to the OREG library, which is over 100 online content-filled events. So it's easily worth over $13,000 right there. This is a supplement to how to find deals to add to Darcy's training. I can say with confidence, all the properties I just mentioned were and are potential land development deals for sure. And then just next slide, I am putting on a how to raise money for real estate deals, including RSP training with Olympia Trust. It's going to be on Zoom with me starting next Tuesday, the 17th. It's 7 weeks of step-by-step how I raise money. You're going to get scripts, PowerPoints, calculators, role playing with other attendees and my coaching clients and coaching from me. And I've raised over $100 million in public and private money. Plus, you're just going to get a dedicated day to a session on how to do RSPs specifically through Olympia Trust. Again, a supplement to Darcy's amazing, phenomenal training. Don't worry if you're too busy with Darcy's training to attend this these live sessions. It's all going to be recorded, added to the library. You can catch up when you can. All these bonuses are easily $15,000 worth or more. I really hope you decide to move forward and take advantage of Darcy's offer. And I'm trying to find the links so you can do that. So just give me a minute. Somehow I navigated away. So keep talking, Darcy, and we'll do Q&A. Can you see the chat for Q&A?
I saw the cat. There wasn't any actual questions in the chat. So yeah, if anybody has some questions, feel free to fire them up. Typically, a lot of the questions I get is this course usable anywhere? Yes, it is. So basically, I teach the process. Like I said, over half the course is how to find it, how to fund it, how to structure it. But yeah, we basically teach the process. So it might be a little different what each municipality requires in terms of a checklist, or your team will know that. But we teach the process. So it does transfer all over Canada and into the United States as well. Why do I have it online? I find that's a really, really great way to learn the basics, teach the foundation. I give the analogy, I used to be a computer guy and I taught accounting software. This is before the internet. So I'd actually come to your office and let's say I was teaching you accounts payable today. So yeah, here's how to enter your vendors, here's how to enter an invoice, here's how you print a check. I must have said that 1,000 times. So the great thing about this course is it's online. You can learn at your own speed. It's 11 hours. It's not a huge time commitment, and that'll get you the base. So now you can talk intelligently to civil engineers and planners and people from the city and even people within the group with me. So it's really, really good. Can we get one-on-one coaching? Yes, that's available. We can talk about that separately. Oh, that one went by. Do you have a quick method of percentages used to calculate soft costs against hard costs? Yeah, so there's actual spreadsheets in the course, downloads, things like that. It does, kind of depend exactly where you are and what you're investing. So, it's tough to get too specific, but we certainly have some general guidelines and basically, so basically base spreadsheets that we use to, so yeah. There's actually white papers, what to put in your investing binder and or your mortgage application binder. What are the typical costs of land development? So I've been blogging and writing. Like I said, I wrote 4 books. So, I've got all kinds of stuff in the chamber that I can pull out that I use. So yeah, so there's kind of no end of information that I throw on. Yeah, so. Any other questions about land development in general, or? Really, as I said, if you've heard horror stories about it, it's just because of the municipality. It's just simple as that. The actual process, land development, is actually really quite simple. And like I said, your team is kind of going to do most of the work. So if you're in an area that it takes 1.5 years to 2 years to do stuff, then don't go in that area. Start investing somewhere else. But I really do think I could go on rants about government for a long time, but I actually, for the first time in a long time, I actually am optimistic that the three levels of government are, although they'll fumble, obviously, they are working to kind of make this a lot easier and decrease the time it takes to do it. What are the impacts of roads and parks? So basically, depending on the size of your job, like, so if you're just doing, let's say, the micro strategy of knock down old house, you're not going to be dealing with parks or roadways. As you get larger projects, if you're doing true raw land development as your micro strategy, typically I'd say, I typically wouldn't do anything like, let's say, smaller than 3 acres. Anything lower than that, and then the road is taking up too higher percentage of the total lot size, right? So you want to be at least kind of, I say 3 acres is kind of the minimum. Over a certain size over in that, and again, this is different by municipality to municipality, they're going to basically require you to either have donate some park land or some of your land for parks, or they're going to have cash in lieu. You're going to have to write a check. So again, what level that is, how much land you have, depends on your municipality. But basically, as you get to the larger, basically probably over an acre, you're going to have to build a road and start. Maybe over 5 acres, you're going to have to do a park. Like I said, it doesn't make sense to do a road on a 1 acre because you're eating up most of your land just for the road. So you need a little bit of size. So that answers your questions. How big minimum lot should be to develop? Well, that again, your community, your city is probably going to have minimum lot sizes. We won't let you do something this small, for example. So you're going to be constrained by that. And then also you're going to be constrained by market. So basically, you know, you might be in a part of town where they're only going to let you do, you know, half-acre lots or 1 acre lots, or maybe you can go down to 8 lots per acre or something. So again, there's really no set one size fits all. It's where you are. The zoning and the density kind of work together to let you figure out what you're going to be. Have you done private versus public subdivision developments? I haven't done public. Everything I've done is private. I actually built or was instrumental in getting the new racetrack and casino built in Calgary. That was a 720 acre place. So if you know where Cross Iron Mall is in Northeast Calgary, there's a mall there. So I was actually instrumental in getting the racetrack. But yeah, in terms of public subdivision versus private, I don't have the public side. Pros of cons of public or private. Again, I love the before, the beginning, and after. I love being creative, right? So I love, you know, obviously if you just tear down an old house, building new, you've got limited what you can do with parks and making things pretty. But the more size of land you have and the bigger your budget, the more creative you can get with making things pretty. So I get a real kick out of the role. It's a real good use of creative juices.
Darcy, I have a question about the one I think it was the first one you showed. You said you moved 2 houses off. Did you sell those houses then, and so that's my first question. The second question is, what are the pros and cons behind moving off versus tearing it down and just taking it all to the dump?
If you can move it, do it. Here's the funny story here. So basically, like I said, I owned the one. I was just going to flip it. The person next to me passed away. So I had it in my budget, tear it down, ship it off to the dump, right? Guy comes up out of the blue and offers me $4,000 a piece. He's going to pay me for the houses. Oh my God, this is the greatest thing in the world. I thought. I never knew this was an option. So the moving day comes, the house movers come, they're jackhammering the foundations. They're putting these massive 15-inch high beams through the house. They're jacking everything up. They take it all off. Coolest day ever. At the end of the day, the owner of the house moving company is an old guy in his 60s. He says, you know, I'd have bought these for you for $15,000 each. What do you mean? He says, well, the guy that came up to you every week, he just goes to City Hall and he runs a list of all the demolition permits. And then he goes to guys like you and he offers you $4,000. Then he comes to me and I pay him $15,000 and he makes the $11,000 split. So next time, come to me directly. So lesson learned, as Judy says, let's educate today. So that's a lesson learned. So typically if I'm doing that, those houses were still in good shape. Those made sense. I don't know if anybody's going to buy it for that. So to answer your question, it depends on the age and the condition of the house, whether anybody wants it. So basically, a lot of the time, let's say the picture in the upper left, or the ones I had, they get moved off to the country or next to a lake for something. So that's typically used by people in a rural setting. Nobody's going to pay you for that kind of thing. So I would phone around. If I've got the tear down, I would phone a house mover and just ask. Like, your first thing should always just be to ask the house. If they don't want it, well, there's your answer. If they want it, there you go. So, but remember not to talk to the middle guy that just went to the city and looked at a demolition permit.
Or be the middle guy.
Yeah, or be the middle guy. There you go. Yeah, because he made 11, maybe 22 grand, right? So
we should do a seminar with him.
Yeah, huh? He's a goer. He's a someone who's motivated to do things differently. I like that.
Definitely. All right, another great question. Another great question. Do you want me to read it to you? You got it.
I think I got it. So what do you do to raise equity versus debt? Do you have any syndication access for acquisition, tax shelter developing and subsidized retail syndication, any securities licensing checkouts, Alberta investor protection? So basically same thing as with any other strategy, flips, rentals, you still got to be on side for the securities exchange, accredited investors, friends and family. I've certainly done different things like that, and that's part of in the how to structure them. I've got an hour-long video on how to structure stuff. I can tell you when I did the racetrack, we're talking to very high net worth individuals at that point. We had prospectus, we had the whole thing. What I found is, because it's so expensive to kind of do limited liability partnerships, GPLP, you typically don't want to do that on a smaller project. So on smaller projects, we typically stay with kind of a simpler strategy and then just use joint venture agreements to kind of lay out who's going to own what and what the profits are at the end. So try to, it gets expensive to do a lot of that other stuff unless you're on a large. Keep that in mind. Anything else?
Yeah, these have all been really great questions.
Yeah. So basically, another question is, who's the course not? So the course is not, it's not a construction course. Like, I don't tell you how thick the concrete in your sidewalk has to be or what the hardness of the concrete has to be. It's not a condo conversion course. So basically, I teach the entire process as an investor. So how to find it, how to fund it, how to structure it, how to acquire the land, how to run the numbers, how to make sure it works, how to spend as little money as possible up front until you're sure. On the construction, we do a construction module, but basically I go through the villa project and I just show what order things get done in with all the pictures up there. So it's basically, it's what I call the shoulder. So I think most, kind of a pet peeve I have of most TV shows, the flips and whatever, they start the program by the good-looking couple or the good-looking property brothers walking up the sidewalk. This is our new house. No, what happened before that? How did you buy it? How did you find it? How do you finance it? And then they end the program just in writing, they sold this and made a $600,000. No, how did you sell it? How did you so we put what I call the shoulders onto that very, very skinny body. So that's kind of one of the. What are your current deals? I am currently in a hotel in Houston, actually, and I came down once in February, and I came down now with some investing partners, and we're looking for 5 to 10 acre sites, because where I am, I've been doing this for 20 years. So my favorite micro-strategy at this point, that's an excellent question, is actually raw land development. So we're looking for 5 to 10 acres. I'm looking for areas like Houston where, they say that the population of Texas is supposed to double by 2050. So you got to love that in terms of stability, right? So you just know that there's, so again, I keep hitting back. I think this is the next big thing, because there's just huge demand all over and there's this need for lots. And if you can it's the same for any business. If you can find a problem and solve it, or find a need and fill it, there's profit there. So people need lots. The same HC program for building these apartment buildings, builders are going to need lots to build on. So you can tear down 4 or 5 old houses in a row and get the paperwork ready for a builder to build, if you don't want to do it yourself, if you want to do that too. So I'm looking for stuff in Houston and Florida as well. So those are kind of where I'm at. In my advanced years, I'm looking to kind of merge this with retirement and move further south too. So that's kind of where I'm at. So again, what you do and how you do it always differs based on where you are in terms of your life and age and whatever. I started 20 years ago when I was 21, so I was 34. That's a very typical age that I find that a lot of people get interested in real estate. So if you're kind of sitting there with FOMO that, oh my God, I'm 34 and I'm looking at all these other people that are posting these wins on Facebook group, I can tell you, you're good. You've got time. It's all going to be okay. You've got lots of time to do stuff. You don't have to do everything all at once. And land development, like MicroStrategy, I think, find one that suits you and go hard on it. Because I think it really can make a difference. I think it can be transformational. But the question is this a lifelong ownership? Can I pass it on to the heirs? Depends on the MicroStrategy. Typically, it's kind of a shorter term thing, like just the upzoning or changing the zoning density, doing the paperwork, severing a piece of land, doing land assembly, merging several things together. Those are kind of short term. So they would basically be the same as, I would put them as really, really great options instead of flipping or doing a condo conversion. So those are kind of the lifestyle or the lifespan of those projects. If you do the land development and then you actually build like I did. So this time in Houston, I'm just going to do the land development. I'm not going to build the new homes this time. But if you do want to do that, yeah. So then maybe you do the build the new apartment building and then you turn it into the 50 RAM, and then at that point your grandkids can have that one on over 50. So that's pretty good. I meant the online course. Oh, lifetime ownership. Yeah, sorry.
Question. It's a good question.
It was a good question.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you do have lifetime access. So I don't shut it off after a year. So how much does it cost usually to service the lot start to finish? So again, depends on the size, but you saw with my 7 acres. So the cost of the soft cost, which is what they call basically anything paperworky. So the phase 1 environmentals, the hydrology reports, any of the blueprints, the site plans, dirt moving reports. Those are the soft costs, and then hard costs are what they call anything that's actually going to any of the work on site. So that was about $2 million on that 7 acres, and that's kind of what we're looking at down in Houston as well. Dollar figure. If you're doing knockdown old house, like I said, it's kind of 15,000 to 30,000 to hook up utilities to that new unit. You can either spend 8,000 to knock the old house down and move it to the dump, or you can sell it for 15, depending on what you do. And then there's some engineering on top of that. So like I said, depending on where you are, it's probably 15, probably 25 to 50,000 per lot to just do that old house, knock down old house. So yeah, not a lot. So you can actually get into this. Like I said, there's at various budget levels. If you're just doing the changing the zoning, for example, then it is just basically the cost of engineering and kind of whatever it's going to teach you to acquire the land. We teach in the course that it's better if you can acquire the course or kind of just control the land without actually acquiring it and actually buying it. That's a real way to keep your costs down as well. So basically, yeah, there's ways to get in this with kind of any style or any range of budget if you could do it right. So again, depends on the size of the lot and which MicroStrategy you're doing. So again, the importance of picking a MicroStrategy that just works best for you.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a 50 by 70 lot near downtown with an older house. So yeah, so it's funny. I was renovate guy for years, right? So in that debate of should we renovate or should we tear it down, I was always renovate guy. Now I've gone completely 180 degrees and tear those old puppies down. So basically tear it down. Yeah, so 50 by 70 old house. Yeah, that's great. So the difference is sometimes you'll have like a 25 or 30 foot frontage. Typically you can't subdivide that because it's too skinny. So basically what you do on a 30-foot lot, for example, is I can do an up-down duplex or back to front, or maybe if you're deep enough, you can maybe put a carriage house in the back. So typically you need about kind of 50 feet, 45 to 50 feet at a minimum to kind of subdivide it. If you do have a 30-foot, 25-foot lot, maybe put two of them together. So then you got a 60-foot lot, and so that gives you a lot of options. So on a 50-foot by 70, you should definitely be able to do something with it, depending on where you are, and what the zoning and density is. So again, if you've already got if you've got land, a lot of the students, they come because they've already got land and they want to know how to develop it. Other students come because they want to learn how to do it. So basically they're starting at how to find land. If you already got the land, you'd kind of skip those first few modules and go right to how do I develop it. And then that worked out well. Now you want to do the second one. You want to do this over and over. Now you go back to the first part of the course to find out how to find it and structure it. So, you can use the course differently depending on what your needs are when you're first entering, but it works for all that. So maybe in order to respect everybody's time, it's been an hour. So thank everybody. You've already got the link if you do want to purchase it. I'd really appreciate that. Here's just some general information about me. Thank you for your questions. Yeah, so there's how to get in touch with me. I've got a Facebook group called Residential Real Estate Developments. You can be part of that. And then as another, just for putting up with me for an hour, it's a free gift. There's a link down at the bottom. You can actually get a free PDF copy of one of my books. So Cash Management and Real Estate Investing. Learn how to raise money, learn how to make more money from your existing buildings, learn how to make your cash reserves go farther. So lots of things. So again, when I started, there wasn't a lot of books on anything. So, I found that if I learned a lesson, it's just, usually because I wrote a check to somebody to fix the mistake. Great way to learn. So 4 books later, lots of mistakes. So learn from me there. So there you go. So other than that, I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Well, thank you so much, Darcy. For those of you who are watching this recording and for all of you who were here, first and foremost, acknowledge yourselves for being here. I guess it's LA 1, Oilers 0. So that's what's going on with the Oilers game. So you're not missing anything. I've put the links in the chat a few times, like for all of his free offers and the Facebook information, as well as for the course. And you're also going to get the links in the follow-up email with the recorded event if you want to review it again. Or if you have maybe a decision maker in your life that wants to see what's going on too, that kind of thing. So Darcy, you are awesome. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you do. I look forward to working with you more in the future. And all the very best to you. Good luck with your deal in Texas.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Jorge says we're missing the links.
Missing chat. Links in chat. Really? Hosts and panelists. What am I doing here? Am I sending? Okay. Everyone. Oh, people. Okay, let's try that. Let's wait a minute. Everybody just, and you will get it. My bad. No links, huh? Darcy, I'm a silly girl. Yeah. Here we go. We got the free links. We got the course link. I'll put it out here again. And it'll be coming your way to everybody that was here. So
if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Email me, get on my calendar. Love to hear from you. Love to talk about this stuff.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next
Thanks, everybody.
time.
Take care. Thanks again.